Have you ever wondered why someone who was healthy, sharp, and lived a happy, healthy life for so many years suddenly, after the age of 80, becomes noticeably weaker, as if a switch was flipped off that no one noticed? Perhaps you've seen this happen to an old friend, a loved one, or you yourself are starting to feel it every morning when you wake up. Your breath is shorter, your legs aren't as quick as they used to be, and life becomes much quieter. Usually people say, it must be genetics, or you just get like that at that age. But maybe, just maybe, we're overlooking the quiet, small things that, if recognized earlier, might have slowed down that decline. Today, I want to sit with you, like two old friends having a warm cup of tea, and together look back at 5 truly surprising, but also very real reasons why many people decline rapidly after the age of 80. Not because of genes, not because of fate, but because of things that seem insignificant. We often think that to maintain memory or mental sharpness in old age, what's needed is to read books, play Sudoku, or learn a new skill. All of those things are true, but something is missing, something seemingly insignificant. Yet it's one of the factors that keeps the brain functioning most balanced: microsocial interaction. With over 20 years of experience working in gerontology and providing psychological care for the elderly, I can say with certainty that small daily interactions with strangers, with casual acquaintances, with the surrounding environment, have a profoundly physiological impact on the nervous system of older adults. When we chat for a few seconds with cashier, or smile and greet the cleaner in the park, our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. The heart rate slows down, blood pressure stabilizes, breathing becomes deeper, all creating a biological response called rest and digest, a state where the body feels safe, comfortable, and ready to recover. Conversely, when these interactions are absent, especially for a long time, the body of older adults is prone to falling into a state of low-level chronic stress, a subtle form of stress that many people don't even realize. Nothing serious happens immediately, but over time, it disrupts sleep, weakens the immune system, increases low-grade inflammation throughout the body, and causes atrophy in certain brain regions, such as the hippocampus, the area where memories are stored. We once followed a group of over 200 people over the age of 80, living independently in different residential areas in the United States. Among them, those who had a habit of going out at least 3 times a week to interact with the surrounding environment, even if it was just going to the supermarket, walking in the park, or visiting a familiar coffee shop, had more stable cognitive function after 2 years compared to a group living in isolation, only communicating with relatives by phone or occasionally meeting up. There's one elderly woman I still remember clearly. She was 86 years old that year, living alone with no relatives nearby and no longer able to drive. She would often take the community bus to the bakery near her house every Monday morning. There, she would order a small raisin bun and a cup of tea, sit by the window, and greet everyone who walked in. Some days, she could only exchange a few words. But when I asked why she still kept that habit, she said gently, "So my brain doesn't forget how to talk." It sounds simple, but that sentence is the essence of maintaining the vitality of the brain. We are never an isolated island, and the brain, even as it ages, is still a social creature. It thrives, adjusts, and recovers through connection. Therefore, the sincere advice I give to you, those who have lived a full life with so much love and challenges, is not to underestimate the value of the small things. A glance, a greeting, a nod, they are subtle medicine for the brain. Actively go out of the house. Rediscover those moments of interaction that used to be so familiar. Order a coffee from your regular shop. Chat with the vegetable vendor, or even just stand on the balcony and look down at the busy street. If you can't go out, let others come in. Ask a neighbor to visit, invite your grandchildren over for a meal, or simply call an old friend. Every conversation, no matter how small, is a thread reconnecting the brain to the world. And remember, loneliness is not just a feeling, but a real biological agent. But conversely, connection, even if brief, is a form of nourishment that the brain after 80 needs more than ever. I've met countless older people who said the exact same thing to me after experiencing a minor fall. "I'm so afraid, doctor. I don't want to leave the house anymore." I understand. Truly, I understand that fear. At 70 or 80, a fall is no longer a matter of falling down, and getting back up like it was in your 30s or 40s. Bones are more brittle. Bone density has decreased. Reflexes have slowed down. A fall can lead to a hip fracture, and that alone can confine someone who was walking normally to bed for a long time, followed by a long chain of consequences. Pneumonia from lying down too much, bed sores from not turning over, and even cognitive decline due to less brain stimulation. But what troubles me the most is this. Many people who have never fallen, just a slight stumble or a fleeting dizzy spell, tell themselves they must stay put, must be careful, and then never step out the door as they used to. This is a dangerous trap of old age. Excessive caution, even if it stems from self-love, becomes a form of freezing the body. Each week without walking, the muscles supporting the hips and knees weaken. Each month without turning the body many times, the ability to balance deteriorates. Each day without reaching up high or sitting down and standing up repeatedly, the diaphragm and lungs also gradually become lazy. And the most dangerous thing is that the brain realizes you no longer demand the body to function, so it allows those functions to gradually shut down. We call it the Shu syndrome, a state where the body, simply because it's not being used, has fallen into comprehensive biological decline, from the musculoskeletal system to the cardiovascular system, and even cognitive function. A large study of nearly 1,000 independent older adults showed that just over 3 days of bed rest due to fatigue, or taking it easy, doubled the time it took to recover function afterward, meaning that if you stay still for 3 days, it can take you 6 days to regain your initial strength if you exercise regularly. I remember an old man who was a physical education teacher in his youth. At 84, he tripped slightly on the stairs, suffered no significant injuries, just a slight pain in his left knee. But after that, for fear of falling again, he confined himself to his bedroom. He didn't go out to the yard, as he always did. He didn't garden. He didn't go for walks with his grandchildren. 6 months later, he needed someone to help him just to get out of the bathroom. A year later, he had to use a wheelchair. When I visited him, he looked at me, his eyes sad. I haven't fallen once since then, but I've been gradually falling apart inside. I've thought about him many times since then. You see, avoiding one fall might save a bone, but never moving again is a way to lose the entire system. At 70 or 80, you don't need to train like an athlete. You don't need to run or lift heavy weights, but you need to walk. You need to stand up from your chair at least 10 times a day. You need to reach, twist, breathe deeply. Maintain your balance, not to compete, but so that your body understands, I'm still here, and I still need you to function. We call it minimum movement to maintain vitality. Just 15 to 30 minutes of walking each day, or 10 minutes of balance exercises, or 5 minutes of stretching and deep breathing is enough to send a signal to the brain. We're still working. And then, the heart still pumps blood regularly. The lungs still exchange air well. The muscles still retain strength, and most importantly, you still have control over your own life. Because if not, little by little, life begins to shrink, from the living room to the bedroom, from the yard to the recliner. Then, at some point, everything becomes too difficult just because we stopped doing them for too long. Many elderly people come to me, complaining, I'm so tired, but I don't understand why I can't sleep. During the day, I nod it off constantly, but at night my eyes are wide open as if I've just had coffee. And most of them think it's normal, because that's just how it is with old age. But in fact, it's not entirely like that. Sleep in old age does change. For example, sleeping less, sleeping more lightly. But prolonged insomnia, especially not being able to distinguish between day and night, is a warning sign of a deeper problem, a disrupted biological clock. You know, the human body at any age is controlled by an internal clock called a circadian rhythm. This rhythm determines when you feel hungry, sleepy, alert, secrete hormones, and the interesting thing is, it mainly takes its signals from light. In young people, this clock is still strong and easy to adjust. But in older adults, especially after the age of 70 to 80, the light-sensitive cells in the eyes gradually decline, making it difficult for the brain to read daytime light signals. If they don't get enough exposure to strong light in the morning, and conversely, are attacked by artificial light or blue light from the TV and phone in the evening, The brain will get confused between day and night. And that's when everything goes awry. You feel sleepy when you should be alert. You're alert when you should be resting. Melatonin, the hormone that helps you sleep well, is not secreted at the right time. Cortisol, the hormone that helps you stay awake, appears at the wrong hours. The result is a constant feeling of fatigue, drowsiness during the day, and tossing and turning at night without being able to fall asleep. I once examined a 78-year-old woman who was still mentally sharp, had no serious underlying conditions, but always complained that she was exhausted all day and couldn't sleep deeply at night, even though she had tried all sorts of medications. When I asked carefully, I discovered that she had hardly been outdoors for months. She stayed indoors all day with dim lights, and in the evening she would watch TV until late. I advised her on something very simple. Every morning, before 9 o'clock, please go out to your porch for 20 minutes. You don't need to do anything. Just let the daylight shine into your eyes. And in the evening, turn off all unnecessary lights after 8 o'clock. After 2 weeks, she returned with a radiant smile. Doctor, I slept straight through night without even realizing when I fell asleep. Thank you for the early sunlight. Many people don't realize that natural light not only affects sleep, but also directly impacts mood, memory, and cardiovascular health. Lack of daylight reduces serotonin, the neurotransmitter that creates feelings of happiness. And have you noticed? Long, cloudy days often make us feel sadder and more depressed. That's not your imagination. It's neurochemistry lacking stimulation from light. So, if you're finding it hard to sleep, don't rush to think about sleeping pills. Ask yourself, did I step out onto the porch this morning? Did any sunlight shine into my eyes before 9 a.m.? Did I leave the TV on late last night? Is there night light shining directly in my face all night? And then start with small changes. Open the curtains wide after waking up. Sit near a window while eating breakfast. Walk outdoors every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Turn off bedroom lights. Avoid using your phone for at least 1 hour before going to bed. We call these things drug-free light therapy. Remarkably effective for older adults, especially those living alone or with a fixed indoor routine. When light is adjusted correctly, the biological clock will restart itself, like a piece of music played at the right tempo. And when the rhythm is steady, sleep will return, mood will improve, memory will be stronger, without the need for any pills. I once asked an elderly gentleman, over 80 years old, "How have you been feeling lately?" He smiled faintly and replied, "Doctor, nothing hurts in particular. It's just a pain in my heart." That sentence left me silent for quite a while, because I understood it was a nameless but very real sadness. Older people often don't express their emotions, not because they don't feel sad, but because they become too accustomed to enduring, accustomed to saying goodbye, accustomed to the silence after the phone no longer rings, accustomed to just looking at the window frame, where loved ones used to come and go. Now only the wind blows through. But when we hold on to that sadness for too long, it doesn't disappear. It just moves. And often, it finds its way to the body. Medicine calls it endogenous depression in the elderly. But often it's not as obvious as it is in younger people. It doesn't come with tears or complaints. It hides within the body. You feel lethargic all day, even though you haven't done anything. You find it hard to sleep, but you also don't feel sleepy. Food no longer tastes good, but you're not hungry either. You breathe more heavily. Your heart beats faster, even though the doctor says your heart and lungs are fine. And you feel no longer interested in things that once made you happy. That's not old age. That's an emotional wound that hasn't healed. Science has proven that when we are sad, the brain sends signals that increase stress hormones, called cortisol. When cortisol remains elevated in the blood for a long time, it weakens the immune system, causes muscle loss, makes the heart beat faster, and weakens memory. It makes you age, not year by year, but month by month, week by week. I once treated an elderly woman nearly 90 years old. Her mind was still sharp, but she complained of persistent back pain, neck pain, and knee pain. Tests didn't reveal any serious illness. But during the examination, she burst into tears when she said, I miss him so much, but I don't dare tell anyone. Her husband had passed away 12 years prior, and in those 12 years, she hadn't cried once. She just hid it so as not to bother her children and grandchildren. I took her hand and said something simple. Auntie, you have the right to be sad, and the right to let yourself hurt a little, because only by allowing yourself to be sad can you begin to recover. That's when she looked at me and then cried like a child after more than a decade of holding everything inside. You see, the heart also needs to let off steam, like a pressure cooker. If we keep it tightly sealed, the pressure inside not only burns out the spirit, but also harms the body. Conversely, when we open up, share even just a few gentle words, the brain will start releasing soothing substances, endorphins, oxytocin, which help relieve pain, reduce fatigue, improve sleep, and even lower blood pressure. So, if you're hiding some sadness, try this. Write it down on a piece of paper. No one needs to read it, just you facing it. Talk to an old friend. A short call, a letter, sometimes it can save a heart. Share with your doctor, not just to treat illness, but to be heard. Cry, if you need to, because tears don't make you weak, they lighten your load. Mental health is not something distant for older people. It's a foundation for everything else, from memory, sleep, immunity to the desire to live. And sometimes starting to heal doesn't require anything grand, just you daring to be honest with yourself. I am sad, and I need to embrace that so I can move forward. I once visited a 92-year-old woman living alone in the countryside, in a small wooden house covered in vines. She had no children, no husband, no relatives nearby. But what I remember most vividly was not her loneliness, but her light-hearted reply when I asked, "What do you get up early to do every morning, ma'am?" She smiled, picked up a small basin, and said, "Oh, I have to water the flowers. If I don't, those chrysanthemums will sulk and wither." It was a simple answer, but a beautiful definition of the motivation to live. It doesn't need to be grand. It doesn't need to be magnificent. Just a small but real reason. Modern medicine calls this lack of motivation apathy syndrome in the elderly. It's not depression. The patient doesn't cry, isn't sad, isn't hopeless. They just don't want anything. They don't like to eat, don't like to get up, don't find anything interesting. They live as if waiting for something to end. And the scary thing is, this syndrome kills silently. When the mind no longer has a reason to wake up, the body also begins to hibernate. Along with it, the digestive system slows down, circulation stagnates, muscles gradually atrophy, the brain no longer lights up. The immune system weakens because there's no longer a fight signal. And then just a mild cold, about a pneumonia, or even just a sleep that's too deep, people pass away, not because of illness, but because there's no longer motivation to fight back. That's why, among all the factors protecting the health of the elderly, the motivation to live is one of the most important. Not tonics, not supplements, but I still want to get up early to do something. And fortunately, creating such a reason is not difficult at all. You don't need to open a store. You don't need to write a book. Just one thing that gets you out of bed each morning. Even if it's for 5 minutes. It could be a newspaper you enjoy, a movie you're in the middle of watching, an old friend you play online chess with every afternoon, a grandchild you video call every Sunday, a breathing exercise that you promise your doctor you do consistently every morning, or simply a small cactus you grew from seed and now it's blooming. Those small things are not meaningless at all. On the contrary, they are the most powerful living medicine that science has never formulated into a pill. Many large studies show that older people with a purpose in life, even a very simple one, will reduce the risk of dementia by 43%, reduce the risk of death in the next 10 years by 32%, and especially they feel less pain, fatigue, and insomnia, even while living with chronic diseases like many others. What's the reason? Because the brain responds to a sense of meaning in life as a survival command. When you want to do something, the body will immediately adjust. The heart beats more rhythmically, the lungs breathe deeper, The brain releases dopamine and serotonin that help you feel light, relaxed, and want to live longer to continue doing that thing. I once heard an elderly gentleman over 85 say, "I still have a dream I haven't fulfilled, to make a YouTube channel cooking for old people like me." People laughed, saying he was too old to be on YouTube. But he did it, and he lived for another 6 years, healthy, sharp, and full of life, just to regularly post a simple dish every week. You see, life doesn't lose its meaning when we get old. It only loses it when we no longer look for it. And that meaning is not far away. It can be found right in a smile, a phone call, a simple meal, or a promise to yourself. Tomorrow, I will get up early to do this. If today you feel like you have no motivation, try writing down 3 things you used to enjoy doing, wanted to do, or dreamed about, even if it's something tiny. Then choose one thing and start again gently. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just start, because perhaps that small thing will keep you in this life longer than you think. Old age, if we let it drift by passively, will become barren. But if we know how to listen to the small movements within our body and mind, we can prolong vitality for a very long time, longer than we imagine. Don't overlook the nods to strangers. Don't stop moving just because of one stumble. Don't forget to expose yourself to light every early morning. Don't suppress sadness like a shameful secret. And never live a day without a reason, even the smallest one, to smile. You don't grow old because of time. You only grow old when you stop living. If this video touched your heart, even just a little, please leave us a like. If you know someone who needs a word of encouragement, a little hope, a warm voice at the end of the day, please share this video with them. And if you want to continue listening to gentle but profound stories with us, please press the subscribe button so that we can still meet amidst the noisy flow of this life. Because, there's someone out there living longer just because of a gentle story like this.